Okay, hello guys, we're back with another Severance video, Severance Season 2, Episode 3? Yeah, 3. Yeah, sorry. I mean, we got a lot to talk about, I guess? Yeah, I didn't know what else to say. I thought I had an intro prepared. I didn't. Let's just get into it with the first time we start on a car on a road next to the beach. And this shocked me, first scene, you know? Because we spend so much of our time at Lumon, in the hallways, in the parking lot, or wherever they live at their homes. We never really spend time next to the beach. So that was cool. And this car, for some reason I knew it'd be Cobel in there. I don't know. I just knew. I just felt like it was, and it was her car. I didn't remember her car. I'm sorry. But, I mean, like I said, it's one of the first times we've gone beyond Lumon. But she sits there in contemplation, and she puts her tape in. And this tape is the song Love Spreads by the Stone Roses from 1969. And I think that's an interesting pick. I feel like the songs are very in this show, at least season 1, the songs were very intentional. That's the word. I'm sorry. Very intentional. So I don't really see the intentional meaning here. I've tried and I can't think of anything. So if y'all have any suggestions of what it might be, that could help. And here we get a shot of like Mark's nightstand or something. It's not next to his nightstand. It's a place where there's stuff on top of. Okay, there's like this bowl thing on the right, which I don't know what this is. Maybe it's just something like you put your car keys in or something. Then there's the picture, a picture of Gemma, and there's his watch. And this picture had me guessing, like, where is this picture? It looks nice in the picture, but it looks strange at the same time for some reason, for me at least. And I thought something of note here was that Severance does this a lot, where they start with a close-up on something like that and don't give you any context on where we are. Like, we started on the picture, the watch, whatnot, and then we see Mark. Like, my first thought was like, wait, we were watching Cobel and then we see some mysterious picture. Is it Mark or is it somebody else with his wife's picture? I don't know. And then we go to Mark, but the show just does that a lot, and I think that's worth noting. But Mark sets his stopwatch after he gets to Lumon. Right as he gets to the Lumon, he sets his stopwatch. And I think it's also interesting, he doesn't walk on the ice this time. Last episode I made a note that he walked on the ice on the way, and this time he walks around it. And he goes up the stairs, and I love the shot here of him going up the stairs, down the stairs. You can't really tell, which why it's interesting. And he's counting the seconds and stopping the stopwatch as he counts when he goes into the elevator. And it's, well, I'll talk about what it is later. I'm sure y'all already know, but I'll talk about it later. Then we see them printing Miss Casey missing papers, and basically they're like, hey, they're not listening. Lumon's not listening. They don't got tabs on us. We're just gonna go find the goat people, and we're gonna go ask them if they know where she is, and everyone else should go to O&D or whatnot, and Dylan should go here, but Dylan doesn't want to. And he basically says, if they don't know what we're doing, how can they punish us? And Helly kind of touches Irving's hand here and says, we got you, don't worry. And Dylan takes notice. It's definitely interesting. It's a one-off scene. Oh, that's a Discord notification. It's a one-off scene where Dylan kind of just takes a look back, and that's it. And I just wonder why they would show that. Like, that was the look of Dylan being on to something. Like, it just felt like it was weird. Like, Helly wasn't acting like Helly, but it was really weird. Basically, Mark explains how his plan is to get Gemma, go to the south stairwell, get her out of there where his Outie will come in clutch, basically. And him and Helly talk in this corner of the hallway where they have some really, really uncomfortable and weird staring. I mean, it's like 30 seconds to a minute of no words and just back and forth staring. Like, I don't know what that's about. And then it ends with Mark saying and then he walks away. So that's how that interaction ended. And I don't know what to make of this. It kind of felt like they wanted to kiss again, but they didn't know what to do. I kind of feel like that's what it was. And we go to Milchecker to find some balloons and angrily grabs them. So there's that. And we do learn that these are Mark's balloons once he brings them into into his office with Miss Wong there. And we go to Irving, who thinks that the hallway that his Outie has been drawing is really down here on the Severance floor, and he's gonna go searching for it. And then he asks Dylan to come with him, but Dylan says, hey, I want you to go by yourself for stealth reasons. And then Miss Wong comes and retrieves Dylan, basically. And Dylan's obviously saying this because he wants to, he wants to work well. He wants to do his job so he can see his family. And we go to Natalie, who's in Milchek's office, and she says, the board is here. And I just noticed this weird chair in the corner for the first time. I don't even know if that looks comfortable. It looks a little painful. But I think it's interesting in the scene. Natalie talks about the board saying this, the board saying this. But she doesn't say, like, they're saying this, or she does say the board is saying this sometimes. But she's saying it. She addresses the board as it multiple times. I can play a clip here. But she says it.
The board is jubilant at your ascendance. It wants you to feel appreciated and asks if you do.
I think that's interesting. You'd address a group of people or a person as it. And I know there was a motherboard theory that there's a theory out there that the board is a motherboard, like a computer, something like that. So this might go into that theory. And she says that the board hopes that Milchek is appreciated and is given a gift of new paintings with Kier now as colored skin. So it made me laugh out loud. It was definitely not what I was expecting from those paintings. But Natalie says, I got the same gift. And we kind of get some great acting performances here. They actually said that in the after credits as well. But the Milchek kind of, for once, seems like he's not approving of what Lumon is doing for once. Then we go to Cobel, who's driving in a snowy area with Salt's Neck 238 as the sign. So I don't know what this means. I'm not familiar with the road, guys. I don't drive. But I mean, is it like an interstate or a highway? Because when I look that up, there's an interstate in California with Interstate 238, one in Minnesota, New York, Oregon, Tennessee, Texas, and Japan. I don't think she's in Japan, guys, but that's what I have available there. And it was snowy, so I mean, we can probably rule out Texas, maybe not Tennessee, but Oregon doesn't get too much snow. Could be that. It didn't look like New York from what I picture New York is like. So or California as well. So I feel like I'd go with Minnesota if we're guessing where this is. But you can tell Cobel's been crying. Her makeup's kind of all over the place. And she's got her mother's breathing tube in the back of the car again, or presumed mother. And there's some house randomly amongst the snow as well, which I think is interesting. And she sits there in contemplation and then decides to turn around. And I think it's also interesting that she did all this traveling right after her interaction with Mark. Like something in Mark had sparked something. And I'll get into some theories later with Mark and a mystery man possibly at the end of toward the end of the video. And we go to Helly and Mark's innie. Well, I guess it's just Helly and Mark. I'll call her Helena if it's the Outie. But they're in the dark hallways again looking for goats. And they open the same room as they do in episode 5 to see like a 3D printed barn and silo with things above them that maybe give water or kind of looks like udders, milk maybe. But then they go through this small goat-sized hallway, and I think it's really cool. Mark holds the goat door open for her even while he is stunned in amazement. So like, what a gentleman. And here I was wondering, how do they know they're called goats? Like, that's definitely a question people have had. How do they know what movies are, what goats are? Like, what information do they retain about the outside world? But what they see is goat land. That's the best way to call it. There's green hills, there's goats everywhere, and there's a black goat with a man inside. But he's not inside an actual goat. It's a costume of a goat. And to me, it obviously looked like a man in like the behind shot. It looked very creepy, actually. But a woman comes in and says, "Are you here to kill me?" and holds out some scissors. And then says this place is mammalians nurturable. I wrote it down. I don't remember how she pronounced it. It's mammalians nurturable. I'm pretty sure that's how she said it. So the fact that she thinks somebody's gonna kill her is interesting because of what they do later when they check their bellies. Like they feel like it feels like they have an enemy, the goat people. Then Irving goes back to O&D to kind of spread the word about Miss Casey being missing. And he notices a painting here, which is the painting that him and Bert talked about when they talked about Kier finding his love. And Felicia is there, and they have a nice little hug. But then we go back to Mark and Helly, who are at the goat lady's desk in the middle of the open. They show her the picture of Miss Casey. On her desk, she's got normal desk things, but then some weird hands. And a vending machine just in the back. And she says, "We don't abide by such fripperies here," when they talk about counseling. So that I don't know. He asks if she knew Miss Casey. She won't answer the question, so she rings the bell of summoning, which summons all of these people out of the woodwork. Then we go back to Dylan, who follows Miss Huang to the security room. He's got some PTSD of, having to hold on with his arms, but he sees his wife, pictures of his wife, with the ocean sounds again, much like earlier in the episode. And this is no longer the security room. This is the visitation suite, where he has unlocked an 18-minute visitation with his wife, who has a clear purse. And I guess they're keeping the workplace safe, so she can't bring anything in. And first question for me is this even his wife? Is this even his wife? That's my first question. I'll talk about why it probably is in a second here. But Miss Huang is listening in and says no privileged info. And then the wife tries to whisper, "Who's that child?" And Miss Huang says, "Miss Huang." And it was pretty funny. It made me laugh out loud. So it's worth of note there, right? And she got kind of reprimanded here because she said Seth instead of Milchek. And here we see that Dylan doesn't know Milchek's name is Seth, his first name, which I thought he did, but he doesn't. She explains that we have 3 kids and that you also have trouble keeping other jobs. And he asks if he's dumb or a dick. And she says he never quite found his thing. It was a little sad, and I'm not very a supportive wife right there. But I was wondering, like, okay, is she real? Not maybe she is real, because we already know this about Dylan's Outie, that he has had problem getting jobs. And to double check, I looked at the credits of last episode when he got a phone call with her, in the credits of this episode, and it is indeed the same actress who did the voice on the phone as his wife, who's standing before him as his wife as well. She explains that Jim is 6, Ruth is 4, and Merrick is 2, their children, and they took an old-timey photo, but Dylan thinks they own a cattle ranch. Then we go to Felicia and Irving, who miss Bert together. They talk about memories, and Irving shows her lots of Bert drawings that he does. And she happens to see the hallway that he's been drawing, that his Outie's been drawing. And she calls it the exports hall and says, "We send shipments down there." And Irving's like, "Do you remember where it is?" And she doesn't answer, but she basically says yes. And then we go back to the goat people, or the people with the goats. But on the topic of goat people, are these goat people? Like, they looked very goat-like. Is that just weird to these people? Is that mean? They felt like they were acting like goat people, like they were goats that became humans. For some reason I thought that. I don't know if that's weird or if like anyone else got the same vibe. You can let me know. But they kind of get her to talk about the fact that Miss Casey she says Miss Casey did used to do sessions in the husbandry tanks. One of the goat people says that she told him his Outie excelled at stargazing. The black goat man, and it said it meant a great deal to him. We know that she does that with her wellness sessions with the Outies. She says, "We won't hinder your search if you are looking for her." Then the guy next to her grunts, and she says, oh yeah, let me see your bellies." And so they show their bellies, and she says, "Huh." Oh, there's another. Jesus, I'm getting Discord notifications, but she says, See, they're pouchless. And the guy says, pouchless proves nothing. So, like, are they scared of pouched people? Because they thought that the people were coming to kill them? Maybe like a goat war happens. Like these people these goats turned into humans, and then some goats have pouches as humans. And wait, maybe there's kangaroo people. Wait, who else has pouches? Do koala have pouches? Maybe there's kangaroo people that have beef with the goat people. Then we go back to Dylan, whose session is over with his wife. And Dylan is now worried about failing his other family now that he knows what his Outie life is like. And it's definitely an incentive for Dylan to work harder to not only see his family, but not fail his family now that he's had a personal connection with part of his family. And we go to his Outie life with him and his family, and we see the kids that we just saw in the picture and his wife there. And some awards in the background here, maybe for her, maybe she earned them since he apparently is a failure who hasn't found this thing. And pineapples on the table, which I think is worth a note. They got a pineapple basket. And Dylan asked, how was the thing? And her response is, what thing? And then she's like, oh yeah, that thing, it was good. And I think it's it was weird. It was weird that she didn't know, and that she kind of didn't, like, she didn't immediately know what her thing was. And it was, it could be nothing, but it's just weird that she didn't know what he was talking about, for me at least. Like, there could be some theories there, like she's somehow severed, some memories were tampered with or something. And also, she's leaving the house at nighttime. I rewatched the episode twice now, and I don't remember. I'm sorry. My memory is really bad. I literally just watched it. Stop Discord notification. Jesus. Okay, but anyways, I don't remember if she said why. Then we go to Natalie, who is with Ricken's Outie. It was a shock. I was like, wait. Are they friends? Do they know each other? But it's their first time meeting, apparently. And Natalie explains that she likes the UUR book. They say that they're discussing the result. And Severance says this perfect, where they make stuff so weird. Like, they're simply just discussing the result of his book, but they make the fact that it's called the result weird. And Ricken's confused, but they discuss a version of his book for innies, because innies respond to a certain verbiage. Like, what? Mark responded just fine to your other book, okay? But then we go to Devin. For some reason, I thought the actress's name. Devin with Mark in his basement, and they're gluing and cutting. And they talk about the fact that Mark's innie should see the after image. Gee, I can't speak today. I'm sorry, guys. But that he timed it, and it's 2 minutes 18 seconds length from the parking spot to the elevator. And they've basically glued this thing on this UV safe light that says who is alive, asking him, what do you mean she's alive? What are you talking about? And then they talk about Mrs. Lustgarden, his teacher. It was also random, like maybe that has to do with something. And we go to Milchek, who's got his monitor on wheels, which is kind of a flex. And he doesn't like the paintings. He covers them up, puts them back in the box, and puts them away. And we go to Mark, who parks in a secluded place with a blanket over his head while he flashes himself with the UV filter light. Then counts to see how long it takes for the after image to disappear, and it's 12 seconds. And I love that they're doing something like this, because so many people in season 1 said something along those lines, like do an after image or train your muscle memory to do this, like all these theories, and he's actually doing something like that. We go to Helly, who leaves the building to see Cobel parked, who's made it back to Lumon, and she says, you must accommodate my needs. I want MDR. Mark S is so close to completing Cold Harbor, which is the project that I started. 2 things of note here. 1, why is it always Mark is close to creating or finishing Cold Harbor? Why does it matter that it's Mark? Why do we need Mark? Did they find us like a perfect specimen that is the only person that can do his job in the correct way? I don't know what that is about. But I do think that this Cold Harbor thing that she started has something to do with her mother. And the trip that she took today, she went to the beach, she went to the snowy area, she had some sort of a trip and it was about her mother. And I feel like this Cold Harbor project that she started was also about her mother. And Helena says, I hear ego, hubris, arrogance, which only cause pain. Or Helena, sorry. And Cobel says that she's earned everything she's gotten, unlike Helena. And Helena says, we didn't have to ask you back. And Cobel says, you didn't have a choice. Helena says, are you sure? And it's interesting why Cobel says that. Is that just her really having an ego? Is there some other need for Cobel back at the company? Is Cobel needed for this Cold Harbor or not, is the question. Helena says, why don't we reset? Starts to call Natalie to see if the board is available for her and Cobel to talk. They do some more awkward staring. This episode is full of them. And then Cobel recognizes a man, the man that looks like it would have been Helena's driver. Helena smiles, but Cobel, like, dips. She gets out of there. Like, she was literally about to talk to the board about potentially getting her the job that she wanted. But she don't care. She leaves, she runs, gets back in her car, and drives away. And, like, here, my only thought was, please stop making me more confused. Please, this show's confusing enough. But it's definitely, I mean, the conclusion is it's some man from her past. Because she obviously recognized him and she's scared of him. Something happened with this man. And there's some pieces we're missing. There's some motive with her mother. Some motive with Cold Harbor. For some reason, she went to look for her mother after her interaction with Mark. She genuinely, like, feels bad for Mark. She genuinely feels bad for a situation with Gemma. That whole situation kind of set her off. And now this man is scaring her. Like, we need more on Cobel. There's some sort of theory we can make. I think I saw some theories out there that Cobel was, like, Mark's mother. I don't know if she's old enough for that, is she? Well, they do bring up Mark's mother at the end of the episode here, which is kind of interesting. It could relate to that. I don't know if she's old enough for that, but there is that. Maybe this man is Mark's father that he doesn't know about. Something like that. There's some history with all of them intertwined out there. Then we go to Mark counting the after image. How many seconds he's on? 35 seconds. When freaking Ragabi jump scares Mark and me. I literally said the same thing as him. I said, Jesus Christ. That's exactly, I said it like the same time as him. It actually scared me. She says, are you trying to do the after image? There's a switch in the elevator that will dilate your pupils so it won't work. And she says, you could also blind yourself. So don't do that. But she wants in the car. She says there's an easier way to do this. And Ragabi asks if his innie told anyone, or his Outie, that his wife was alive. And he's like, what are you talking about? Why? How do you know about that? And she's like, she was alive the last time I saw her. And Mark learns about this, you know, gets emotional. But Ragabi says, you have to trust me. I'm better at reintegration now. And he doesn't hesitate. He don't hesitate. He's like, I want to see my wife. Fine, I'll do reintegration. Even though PD got wrecked last season. It was not good. It looked very painful. But he puts on a red shirt like he does wear in the intro for his innie. And I think it's not a good sign that she has to smack her machine to get it to work. And she explains how she's trying to get the waves of the brain in sync. Asks him what his mouth tastes like. And then he starts convulsing. Like she messed up there, I guess. But then starts asking questions like, who was his mother? He says his mother was Fern with brown eyes. He thinks brown eyes, which is interesting. And asks him to name a dam. Asks him if he knows what MDR is, what he feels shame for. He feels shame for his dog's death, leaving the gate open. That's just, it's a whole other trauma thing right there. Then he doesn't know the year, the quarter. They're mixing together, and they kind of glitch together. They're asking about his first memory, and boom, he's on the table again, and he's hearing the voice say, hey there, you on the table. Who are you? And that's the innie's first memory. He's living the innie's first memory, and they're kind of mixing together, reintegrating. That's very exciting. But I'm gonna get with the after credit stuff here right now. But the credits actually have a white background with black words, which is the opposite of what it normally is, which is funny since he's reintegrating and changing at the same time, which I love that. But I'll talk about things of note in the after credits. One, this isn't a thing of note, this is a note from mine, is that Anymark has this allegiance to his Outie. Once he meets, you know, his sister and whatnot, trying to get his wife back. And at the same time, Dylan is gaining this allegiance to his family this episode as well. But now the things of note, they said that the goats on set were actual goats, and that these people were caged and paranoid. And they talk about Gwendolyn is the woman's name, is actually the actress's name. But I think it's interesting that in episode 1, Mark W. says that he knew Gwendolyn, and kind of there's this weird look that I talked about in that episode. You can go check that out. I'll link that at the end of this video. But there is a weird look about a Gwendolyn that they talk about in episode 1 of this season. But it is also the actress's name is what he was referring to, or it could also be the actress and character. But they talk about the fact that there's a person of color at Lumon, and they're kind of dealing with color at Lumon. And the fact that in this scene, it was supposed to show that Natalie never knows when someone is listening, so she doesn't know what to say to Milchek here when he first sees the paintings. But the questions that they posed are, does Natalie get it? Does she get Milchek's, I guess, disapproval? Does she get his situation? Is she an ally? These are the questions they talk about in the after credits. But they also talk about the fact that they're using the job as an incentive, as the ultimate perk for Dylan, which I talked about. And the final thing of note here is that the creator thinks Mark knows death is a real possibility from his reintegration. So it's a longer video, I guess. Yeah, maybe slightly longer than normal, but I felt like there was a lot in this episode. Thank you guys so much for watching, and let me know your theories and whatnot below. And thank you guys, seriously. Have a good rest of your day. Goodbye.